What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Six Pack YouTube channel for the Week 14 game previews. I'm your host, Dylan Clemens, here with me, as they are every Friday or Saturday sometimes, my co-hosts, Michael Plant and Mike Bonnie. What's up, my friends?
Not more lately Friday.
It is finally Friday, man, and we're ready to get into some football. Oh, wait. We had a great football game last night, right? Did you guys enjoy that?
For like a quarter.
Didn't even watch it.
I'm be honest with you. Go ahead, Mike.
It was just an explosive quarter of some offense, and then it was just the rest of the way out.
Yep, I watched that first quarter, and then I fell asleep on the couch at about 8:15. It was glorious. It was absolutely fantastic.
You Zeke, bully for you.
Yeah, good. That was Zeke was my number one waiver wire guy this week, so I'm glad that paid
What's good,
off.
Jamie?
Like he had like 26 points or something in PPR last night, right? Yeah, that's
he had like 7 catches,
7 targets too. Caught them all.
Just weird, wild stuff. But before we jump into things, I want to remind you, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you don't already. And then head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans and become an all-access member for just $9.99 a month, where you get access to our award-winning rankings, draft cheat sheets, our F6P Discord, where you get custom advice for all your leagues and your playoff run that's coming up here. You get access to our DFS projections and stacking tool, and access to custom DFS builds from our DFS team, Chris Robin, Dave Eddy, Keith Fleming, Joe Matz, all the guys over there. So if you go ahead and sign up for the $9.99 a month, I guarantee you will make your money back before the end of the season with the DFS content. Also, what do you say, guys? Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say also, Joe put a promo code in there again for everybody else.
Even cheaper.
FF playoffs, I believe, for 25% off. It's either 25 or 15. But either way, you get money off for it, and it's most likely going to help you win money.
Yep. We all like money off on things. So what do you say? Let's jump into things, guys. We got only 2 teams on bye after we had 6 last week, which was just brutal stuff. This week it's a little bit easier. Only the Cardinals and Commanders on bye. But, quarterbacks seem to be dropping like flies. So you're missing Kyler Murray and Sam Howell, who are probably pretty much locked into your lineups, right, guys?
Correct. Well, yeah. Sam Howell,
this
not
week
as much
Sam
after
Howell,
last week. Yeah.
In the next few weeks, you probably don't want to be starting Sam Howell because he's got a brutal schedule. But
his playoff schedule isn't nice.
Right on.
But Kyler Murray, he's been rock fucking solid since coming back.
18 to 20 points per game. Yeah, he's up there. He should be a starter most weeks.
What's up, Albert? Yeah, man, he's moving around and everything already, which is great to see after the ACL injury. I like it, Jamie.
Love it, Jamie.
Jump into the first game. Ike, we're going to start with you with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. You're starting Mike Evans. You're hoping not to start Baker Mayfield this week. You're starting Rachaad White, who's just been absolutely solid. But I want to ask you about Chris Godwin, who's been disappointing all year round. We're a week out from mostly everyone's playoffs. Is he someone that you could plug into your lineup? And where do you have him ranked this week?
For this, he's a borderline wide receiver 3 for me this week. He's had a brutal stretch in the past 5 games. Yeah. He's had 0 10-plus fantasy point games. He's had 4 wide receiver finishes outside top 36 during this time. So basically, he's not even worth to be a top 3 or in a wide receiver 3 spot. He's flex at best, but I think you can find better options. Obviously, your question next is Drake London or him. I'd probably go Drake London.
That? You're a damn mind reader, man.
I would go Drake London over him. He sees at least he's the top option in this offense. It seems that Chris Godwin has moved to 2, maybe even 3 now that Rachaad White is starting to get a lot of targets. So,
yeah,
if you're down bad, you can start him, but I wouldn't expect anything significant.
It is so crazy to think that with Tom Brady moving on, Mike Evans has gotten better, with Baker Mayfield. And Chris Godwin has gone down.
Because Tom Brady didn't take as many deep throw chances. He would maybe once or twice a game, and that's where Mike Evans would get his targets. But Tom Brady loved to go in the middle of the field, get that slot guy bunch of targets. That's why Chris Godwin last year saw 10-plus targets his last whatever amount games. So the change is bad for him, but good for Mike Evans. And Trey Palmer's actually been outperforming Godwin.
Trey Palmer has been very solid as of late. But yeah, it was, and Brady wanted to just get the ball out of his hands as quick as possible because the offensive line last year struggled, and he's old man, didn't want to get hit anymore. And I don't blame him at all. So, Mike, looking at the Atlanta side of things, and Ike teased it a little bit. He said that he would rather start Drake London over Chris Godwin. Are you on the same page with Ike here? Do you see a bounce back from London in a decent matchup against Tampa Bay?
I mean, if you're giving me the option between Godwin and London, I will go London because he is, I guess, the number one threat. But matchup is juicier, fifth best for wide receivers. He's just only seen a total of 16 targets the past 3 games. Talk about Trey Palmer. That's tied for him and Quentin Johnson for the past 3 games. So it's not ideal. And
it's because Kyle Pitts is coming on, man.
He is coming on a little bit more. He is getting some more targets. I saw that when I was looking at this.
But they're actually starting to get Bijan more involved too. So
that was more where I was going to lead to it because, like, in the past 2 games, only 27 passing attempts, 31 rushing attempts 2 weeks ago. And then last week, 21 or the previous week, 21 passing attempts and 34 rushing attempts. So, like, they are clearly trying to run the ball more than pass the ball as it comes into the, playoff push for them. And I guess Bijan's the biggest benefactor because Tyler Algier in the midst of this running game is now disappeared.
Yeah, Algier is kind of disappointed a little bit, but it is great to see Bijan finally starting to get the touches and carries. I think the last 3 weeks, he's got over 20 touches, correct, Mike? And then I also saw Ian Hartitz posted a tweet where it had his remaining schedule, and it is really juicy too coming up. So if you happen to sneak in the playoffs and you have Bijan Robinson on your roster, he could bring you some fantasy championships. That would be nice for him to make up for his crappy beginning of the year because of Arthur Smith.
3 straight games of 20-plus touches.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there. But also,
like an RB2 or better in all 3 of those games.
Yep. And like I did mention, Kyle Pitts is coming on a little bit. Shout out to Andrew Cooper, Fantasy Alarm, who did an article this week, and Kyle Pitts ran like 33 routes or something, which was a season high or something like that. So that's good stuff.
That's
good
weird.
Stuff coming his way. Hopefully he just hopefully you can plug him in and he can get you 9 to 10 points, kind of like what he did last week. So
there's quite a few other tight ends I would start over him, to be honest. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, 8 targets after the 0 points he got last week.
Oh yeah, 8 targets for a tight end is gold.
Yeah, it is a pretty big target share as well.
Just his catch percentage is something to be desired from. Like, he'll get 8 targets, but will he catch more than 4 of those? Will he catch more than 4 of those? Probably not.
I don't know.
I don't think you can blame it on him.
No. He's been playing with Taylor Heineke and Ritter.
Yep. Just a solid 6-point floor, no higher than an 11-point ceiling. So, our next game here, guys, we got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Ike, Cooper Kupp last week. It wasn't pretty. Just watching him, it doesn't look quite right. He looks definitely banged up and irritated by that ankle injury, but the touchdown saved him last week. Do you trust him if you're battling for a playoff spot with him, or are you kind of leaning towards benching him if you have better options against a solid Baltimore defense?
This one depends. I don't know the status of Puka. I haven't really looked recently. If he is in, I think this hurts Cooper Kupp way more than you would expect because Puka has seemed to be the number 1 option now. I don't know why. It just kind of happened that way. But if Puka is out, you have to start Cooper Kupp because they're going to have to rely on him.
Puka's
what else are you going to – Puka is going to play?
He practiced fully Thursday, which means he practiced fully Friday.
man, with that, it was a rib injury, I think, or something like that, rib and shoulder or something like that he got hurt on. So if he takes another big hit, that could be bad. But I still think they're going to have to rely on Cooper Kupp. This is a big game for them. They need it for the playoffs for the most part. If you want to,
it's a tough game against the Ravens.
Oh, yeah. It's just like the Browns, where Browns were tough against receivers too. But Cooper Kupp was able to score then. I think he can get in the end zone one more time. I mean, it's risky, but he's a better option than, say, Godwin in London, I think.
I was just going to ask you that. Nice. Do you agree, Mike, with that?
I'm actually going to disagree with that. Baltimore is the number one toughest against QBs, which means Stafford's going to be struggling because he ain't mobile. And then it is third toughest against wide receivers. So you get Nacua to play. Cooper Kupp's probably going to draw the number one coverage, even though Nacua has been the number one target as of late. So I'm really trying to bench Cooper Kupp if I can. He is literally wide receiver 60 or worse the past 3 weeks.
Could be a decoy for Puka, like how Cooper Kupp was the week before or whatever when with his ankle injury. Could be a decoy for Puka just to be out there so they don't double Cooper, but still, it's risky for sure.
If I'm wrong, you know what? I'm going to get silly string because Cooper Kupp's my silly string pick of the week, and he's got projected 10.37 half-point PPR fantasy points, and I projected the under. Ooh. So if it does happen, I'm getting silly string, and my streak is over. I think it's like 5 in a row, which I love.
Let's answer this for JB real quick. I'm in a league fight for the 101 Dynasty. Who to start to tank better, Pitts or Everett? That's Everett,
right? I just had Everett on my drop list, not to be dropped, but to be picked up instead of, I don't know who it was. He's had, it was instead of Lance Thomas. He's had the same amount of tight end finishes as Lance Thomas, but in like 2 or 3 less games and like 20 less targets. So when he's in the game, he's going to get
I was going to say
value.
He's just a part-time player.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it is, he's splitting time with Donald Parham and stuff.
So Broncos allow the second most tight end fantasy points too, so that kind of scares me a little bit. I think I'd almost go Kyle Pitts.
Okay, interesting.
It just Kyle Pitts is one of those guys where it's like, man, it's so hard to trust for basically the whole year is boom or bust. So
no boom. No boom. Fine.
So if you're trying to bust, play Pitts. That's the answer.
At least Everett, it's like, all right, 5 to 10 is fine, but Pitts can get you anywhere from 0 to what'd you say his cap was 11?
I think he got. I said his floor was 6, and he could get up to 11. Yeah, I think he got up to 15 or 16 at one point this year, but yeah, not pretty stuff.
I'd go Everett.
But Mike,
Jamie, take it from a guy who's 1-12.
Looking at the Baltimore side of things here, Mike. And Keaton Mitchell actually outstaffed and outtouched Gus Edwards in the previous game they played. They were on a bye last week. Are you okay still starting Gus this week? And are you interested in starting Keaton Mitchell as well?
Man,
not together, obviously.
Yeah, not together, obviously. I'm actually okay starting both, and I know you probably don't agree with me on Keaton Mitchell. You're starting Gus Edwards in hopes he falls into the end zone because he's been touchdown dependent all year. But the thing is, man, is last week he got 0. Justice Hill got them all. So weeks 8 through 10, Hill was the number 2 back behind Edwards, getting 7.7 touches a game. And Keaton was getting 7, respectable, I guess. And then, 2 weeks before the bye, he saw an increase in his snaps go from 36 to 46%. And then he was behind Edwards getting 10 touches a game till Edwards 11.5. So I do think Keaton Mitchell is starting to come on a little bit more, and the Ravens do intend on, using him more. I just don't know how much more. And the biggest red flag with him is he's got 2 red zone attempts all fucking year. But he can break it to the end zone at any point. He's got that type of speed, and if he starts getting 10 to 15 touches, hell yeah, he's a flex play. and it's a high upside flex play with his explosiveness.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm interested to see what the offense looks like after the bye. Like if they've decided to phase one of the running backs out, that would be interesting as well, because maybe Keaton Mitchell comes out and he gets to those 15 touches now, Mike, after the bye. That very well could be.
It's very possible. I mean,
you're absolutely right. He would be locked in as an RB2 the rest of the season if that was the case.
mean, I was looking up stats for to make my boy Achan look great. You're welcome, Dylan. And I looked at it, 20 running backs with 25 plus touches.
Yeah.
All right. Achan's 1 at 9.5. All right. But number 2 is Keaton Mitchell at 9.3.
Interesting.
So like he's just as explosive as Achan. So yeah. I think he's definitely gonna come out and down the stretch, and it's a possible league winner if you got lucky enough to stash him.
After bye week is when it happens, man. So
yeah, very well could. Definitely going to be interesting. There's not too many great games to watch during this first set of games, so that might be the game to tune into.
Let's be real, the QB matchups aren't great either. I've been seeing it all over social media how bad they are.
We're running out of starting quarterbacks. We probably don't have enough starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL when all 32 are healthy. You know what I mean? And then we've lost to what feels like
at least 5.
25%. 25% of the starters. 30% of the starters.
We'd be lucky if we had 20 starting caliber QBs out of 32 teams.
And it really is showing right now with all the injuries.
Speaking of that, we got a quarterback
bad
next.
football here.
Oh, do we? Is it the next game?
Oh, yes, we do. Next game, we got another battle of the NFC North. We got the Detroit Lions taking on the Chicago
You got a better
Bears.
taste in your mouth after this last game you guys had?
A little bit.
I'm not going to lie. I think the Bears are actually going to win this one.
I actually do too, to be honest.
No, I think it's going to be a letdown because there's a lot of people who are saying that the Bears are going to win. So I feel like this is just going to be it.
There's a reason why.
Jared Goff's away. He's outside in cold weather, probably.
There's a reason why people are saying that, and obviously I'm about to get
You remember the last time Jared Goff played in December? Sorry, Ike, for interrupting.
No, you're good.
Remember the last time he played in December against the Bears when he was on the Rams? Oh, negative points. I remember starting him that week. It was not fun.
You want to hear it? You want to hear?
I remember that.
You want to hear my rebuttal to that?
Go ahead.
Jared Goff threw 3 interceptions the first matchup, and the Bears lost. Do we think?
I don't care if they lose. It depends on how Goff. It depends on how Goff plays, at least for this question.
Yeah, no, I haven't even asked the question. That was my rebuttal to why I don't think the Bears are going to win. Is because Jared Goff threw 3 interceptions.
Yeah, their defense has been much better since that sweat trade. He's making me work.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that for sure, but I just don't think they're going to win. But
we don't want to win, though. We don't want to win.
To get to my question. Where do you have Goff ranked this week after he threw 3 picks against the Bears just 2 weeks ago?
Unfortunately, with, like you said, all the injuries to quarterbacks, he's still QB or borderline QB1. In his 6 road games this year, he's only had 2 quarterback 1 finishes. So obviously you got to worry about that a little bit. And he's only had 2 quarterback 1 finishes in his last 6 games, home or away.
That has to be good.
Since bye week, he's only quarterback 13 in fantasy points per game at 18.1. So, again, borderline QB1 right now. They seem to be going more run heavy. They're getting Montgomery the 15 to 20 touches, along with Gibbs getting 15 plus. So, basically, Goff is doing. If he throws, it's going to Amon-Ra St. Brown or Sam Laporta. He'd probably throw like 25, 30 times. It's just tough. Last time they played, it was 3 picks, like you said. So
I think
there's a lot going against him, but I'd still play him.
After those interceptions, I think Dan Campbell said, you know what, we're going to put a little bit more on cruise control. We're going to relegate you to more of a game manager at this point. And then if we need you, then we'll thrust you into that if we need it.
I don't think he'll throw 3 picks again. I think he'll maybe 1, which is fine. You can get away with that. Obviously, he averages 1+ touchdowns a game, so that's fine. He's good enough to be a super flex option for sure. if you want to start him in 12-team or 10-team leagues,
Are you
I hope
starting him? Would you start him or Justin Fields like this week?
Justin Fields, easily.
I was gonna say let's be real. If it wasn't for the injuries and Sam Howell and Murray being on bye, he'd
be like quarterback 15. He
exactly. He wouldn't even be a
that'd be
QB1 right now.
Yeah. Justin Fields has been pretty solid against the Lions the last few times he's played them too. I want to say either the last 3 games or 3 out of the last 4 he's rushed for over 100 yards. So I think Justin Fields is a solid QB option.
Top 6, probably top 8.
I remember Dave Eddy saying last night on Joe's podcast that Justin Fields is one of his favorite QBs going.
Yeah, right now he's the money lock.
Yeah, his floor could just fall out at any time. We've seen it before, I like it, but yeah, I get it. Looking at the Bears side of things, Mike, let's talk backfield. The last time we saw all 3 of these running backs healthy was like back in week 1 or 2, and Deontay Foreman was a healthy scratch. Unfortunately, when Deontay Foreman has been on the field, he's been really good. So are they just going to healthy scratch him again? Because if you remember before the bye week, it was Roschon Johnson who looked ahead of Khalil Herbert, but Herbert was also coming off an ankle injury.
They're a little banged up.
Pretty much my question here, and I'm probably going to curse, but what the fuck do we do with this backfield? Who do we play, if anybody?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of avoiding it if possible. Kind of like you said, weeks 1 through 6, it was basically split between Herbert at 12.2 touches a game and Roschon Johnson at 7.2. And then, when I believe it was Roschon Johnson who got the concussion, got injured, Foreman came in. He wasn't a healthy scratch anymore and saw 23 touches in 2 of those, games when active.
Yeah, him and Herbert both got hurt around the same time. So remember, it was just Deontay Foreman and the fullback for a while there.
Blasting game, yeah.
Travis Homer, yep.
So, I know Foreman was kind of like the emergency guy, but you know what? He came in and he did what he did because, when Herbert was missing those games, weeks 6 through 10, Foreman had 17.6 touches a game, which was more than Herbert even got in the beginning of the season. But then week 11 and 12 comes along, and Herbert took the reins again in the backfield at 13 touches, in those 2 games average. And then Roschon Johnson, was involved as well because, we saw Foreman's been a little banged up. So, long story short, this is a running back by committee. I think we got to, unless you're desperate, I guess all of them are flex plays for the most part, but it's you have no trust in any of them.
Yeah, agreed. Deontay Foreman could see 8 touches. He could see 0 touches this week.
He could see 18.
I agree. It's going to be totally weird, man. It's for me, and I know JB said to fire up Roschon. I don't know if you can, man. I think it's just a wait and see at this point, especially if you're battling for a playoff spot.
It's just too unpredictable. There's so many outcomes that are, more outcomes that are going to fail you than actually help you win, I feel like. Plus, especially going against the Detroit Lions defense. Their run defense has been better than their pass defense.
Yeah, and like I said, Fields has rushed over 100 yards the last few times against the Lions.
Yeah, maybe it's Fields.
How many yards is there really going to be to go around for these running backs? But let's go ahead and jump into the next game. We have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. We thought it was Zach Moss season. It wasn't last week. Very underwhelming game from him. Do we trust him here against the Cincinnati Bengals?
I would still be trusting him. He still saw 19 carries, which is pretty fantastic workload for the running backs nowadays.
Suck right now.
Other than last week when he's given that type of workload, he's usually an RB1. He didn't fall in the end zone this week, so there is nothing to worry about with that type of workload. You got to start him no matter what. He's getting more carries and targets and touches than Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift, Pacheco, basically every running back except for 5 of them. So yeah, you gotta keep it. You gotta keep rolling with him no matter what. Highs and lows.
You still have him as a top 8 guy because I think you had him 6 or so last week, or no?
Last week, I know I had him as an RB1 last week. I don't remember exactly where, but again, he should be an RB1 this week with how with how bad running backs are, you just got to roll with it. It is what it is.
He's a running back one by workload.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Totally fair. Michael Pittman, just a target hog machine. You're rolling him out there. Josh Downs, I was all about him last week. Missed on him. Disappointed. I think he had 6 fantasy points. Definitely not ideal. You guys like him a little bit, like him in this matchup, or is he just another guy who you just can't trust?
I think he's hit or miss because they've kind of just relegated, Gardner Minshew to like this game manager like we thought he'd be.
Oh, yeah.
He's been just over targeting Michael Pittman. So it's not enough targets. It is boom bust with Josh Downs because he does have.
Yeah, fuck, he basically throws 25, 30 times a game. 10 to 15 of them are going to freaking Pittman. So
Pittman,
probably 3 to 4, probably Zach Moss off the rip.
Yeah. Plus you got Al Pierce, who's now showing some life, 4 catches, 100+ yards. So yeah,
deep draft.
Obviously Josh Downs is the better talent, but right now I wouldn't be starting him in any really significant format.
Yeah. Then looking at the Bengals side of things, Mike. Jake Browning, solid game on Monday night against the Jaguars. Maybe giving people a little bit more faith in his weapons and being able to start him. Jamar Chase obviously locked in, but do you still have Higgins as a locked in wide receiver 3, top 36 guy this week? Or are you out on him because he only, I think, scored 6 fantasy points last game?
Yeah, so, I look at the averages here. In the last 3 games in PPR, he's averaging 12.5 points, despite that 6-point game last week. And he is seeing 6 targets in that stretch a game. So that does put him in the wide receiver 3 flex territory, just, kind of with the targets there and, scoring double-digit points on average the past 3 games. Mm-hmm. But the thing here is the matchup really favors the running backs when you're playing the Colts. 4th best against running backs as far as, matchups go. And you're not really favored for the wide receivers. It's 14th toughest against wide receivers. A little bit more in the middle of the pack, but it's not in the top half. So with that, I knocked T. Higgins down to more of like a lower end wide receiver 3 upside flex this week. He's going to probably be more in like the 30 to 40 range, I think.
Let me ask you this, man. We're going to talk about the Jaguars next in our next game. Who would you rather play, T. Higgins or Calvin Ridley with a possible CJ Beathard starting?
Man, oh yeah, that was... yeah.
We also don't have Christian Kirk either with him on account of him tearing his sack, so...
I would rather play T. Higgins because the Cleveland Browns matchup is not very good.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. You're fired up, Joe Mixon. You said like juicy matchup against the Colts.
Great
there.
Matchup.
Yep. Browning probably solidified himself as a super flex option.
Don't expect that every week.
Super flex option, though, man. I'd play him over Bryce Young probably.
Oh hell yeah, super flex option.
Stuff like the players like that.
Would you play him over Gardner Minshew?
Though. Yeah, because it's the weapons. It's the weapons that do it for him.
Yeah, because Jamar Chase can literally take a 5-yard slant for 80 yards.
He's passing into Joe Mixon. Like, he's checking it down like a smart quarterback, too. Like, Mixon, at any point can, just score those easy dump-off passes, in the red zone. You got T. Higgins, who's a red zone threat. And the tight ends are still showing something with, Joe Burrow. So, like, Jake Browning just has a plethora of weapons compared to, like, Gardner.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Next game, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Cleveland Browns. Like we mentioned it, looks like CJ Beathard is probably starting, but Trevor Lawrence, they said, is going to be a game time decision. I think it's pretty...
he's not playing.
Pretty irresponsible if they trot him out there and he's extremely immobile. That doesn't seem like a great idea. But if it's CJ Beathard...
Pull out the Ben Roethlisberger offense.
you ain't kidding there, Travis Etienne about to eat with 12 targets or something like that.
Yeah.
But like, how has the Trevor Lawrence injury affected your rankings for these offensive players? What's your take here on Calvin Ridley? We got Zay Jones without Christian Kirk now. Travis Etienne, what are you thinking?
Honestly, the only guy you should probably be starting is Etienne. Even though he's a borderline RB1, he's had 3 finishes outside top 12 in the last 4 games, 2 of them outside top 24. But they're going to have to rely on him if it's C.J. Beathard because the Browns love to feast on inexperienced quarterbacks. It could be a rough day for Beathard and the tight ends, the wide receivers, running backs you can get away with because they can fall in the end zone if something weird happens, or they can get a bunch of targets just because they're down. So that's why I say ETN is not a must start, but someone you should be starting no matter what. Calvin Ridley's up and down with Trevor Lawrence. Do you expect him to be up with Beathard? I don't. And Zay Jones has been what he is all year, just touchdown dependent. And I don't see Jaguars scoring enough to warrant him to start.
Yep. And ETN is also banged up as well.
Yeah, so this whole Jaguars offense is
questionable.
I think the Browns are just going to absolutely feast on this team, man.
It's going to be rough. Their starting quarterback, yeah, they're trying to play it slide.
That doesn't matter. Myles Garrett is going to run just circles on C.J. Beathard.
Yes.
Beathard, whatever he deserves Beathard. He deserves Beathard.
Not British, man.
I mean, the Jaguars do play a lot of games in London. Maybe they did pick up.
Could be right. I'm pretty sure Beathard went to.
They held a training camp out there. Why
not? Funny stuff. Looking at the Browns side of things, Mike, I'm thinking at least it's going to be Joe Flacco after what he did last week. Threw for over 250 yards, did throw a bad interception. Definitely wasn't ideal, but I feel like he gives them the best chance to win right now. If he is the quarterback, we saw Elijah Moore last week, 12 targets. Wasn't efficient on him, but he's been getting targets all season long. I've been preaching that for a long time. But what are your thoughts on him this week if Flacco is the starting quarterback? Can you start him?
I feel like I have to say this before I answer this question, and I have to disclose this information, because it's a disclaimer at this point, because we don't know the starting quarterback for either team yet, even though we're all speculating this, speculating that. Realistically, we don't, and that's really what's kind of screwing us over here. So we go do our best, work off projection, and I'm with you, Dylan. I think Flacco's going to be the starter here, and if Flacco's going to be the starter, like you said, 12 targets last week, mainly due to Amari Cooper leaving early with a concussion. So, give me Elijah Moore this week if Cooper is out. But here's the thing. If Cooper plays, I think I want Zay Jones over Ridley. Because I know your next question here is, play him or the, Jacksonville Jaguars here, which I think is a good question here. But the reason I say play Zay Jones over Ridley is because when Kirk got hurt last week, the biggest beneficiary was Zay Jones. He jumped from the previous week, an 8% target share in week 12, to a 20.5 target share last week between Lawrence and Beathard. Or Beathard. Yeah. He got me. He pounded it in my head. But so and in that game, Zay Jones, 9.8 yards per target, 15.6 yards per reception compared to Ridley's measly 3.2 yards per target and 6.5 yards per reception. So, I know this is completely contingent on a lot of things in this, situation. But if Flacco's the starter and Amari Cooper is out, give me Elijah Moore because I think those 12 targets can carry over. But if Cooper is in and Flacco is the starter, give me Zay Jones.
Isn't it crazy that all we need for Elijah Moore to break out is for Joe Flacco? He's got. I read somewhere.
I mean, he has chemistry with him from the Jets last year.
I know.
He also likes to target the slot a little bit more than.
I read somewhere that Elijah Moore has 3 or 4 games of over 80+ yards in his career.
Oh, with Flacco?
Been from Flacco, yeah. Just awesome stuff, man.
That is weird.
I don't know if that should be a good stat or a bad stat.
That's good for people that have Elijah Moore.
Oh, I know.
But if you're Elijah Moore and you sat there and read that stat, are you happy or sad?
I'd be like, Man, why am I only good with Joe Flacco? What the fuck?
Elijah better be buying Flacco a Rolex or something for trying to get
Thank
him
you
the
for
ball
making
so
me
much.
relevant and making me
Yeah.
money.
For Christmas for sure.
At least fantasy relevant.
Next game we got the Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans.
Before we jump on to the next game, Jamie did ask a question. He goes, Parker Washington over Zay Jones. And I would not do that. He did get the touchdown last week, but the target
I
share
would go
went to
Zay Jones for sure.
The target share went to Zay Jones. It's just a safer play, even though Parker
Especially
Washington
with what you just said.
he could get three targets for a touchdown, but I mean, you can't trust 3 targets, man.
All right. Next game we
Good
got
stash
Carolina.
player though, considering Christian Kirk is gonna probably miss. I mean, I think I saw a tweet from Sheffield.
Injured list or whatever.
If the Jaguars can make it to the Super Bowl, Kirk has a chance to play. That's basically it. It's almost season ending pretty much. So Parker Washington is a good stash candidate.
His balls hurt big time, I guess.
That damn testicle, man.
That damn testicle torsion.
Mike, am I good to move to the next game now?
Yep, go ahead. I changed the map.
The Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans Saints. Like Chuba getting a solid workload last week. Is he back in the circle of trust this week?
Unfortunately, he is. He's a serviceable RB2. I mean, back-to-back RB1 finishes, 18-plus touches in both games, 20-plus fantasy points. With the new play calling, he saw 25 carries. I mean, he could be the focal point of this offense now, which is weird to say. I love it because 2 years ago or whatever, I was saying Chuba Hubbard was really freaking good and that he deserves all this. And he's finally getting it, so that's sweet. I like it.
He took straight up took Miles Sanders' job, man.
Straight up just snatched the life from Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders got Wally pipped, man. He got hurt.
Walked up behind him and snatched the life from him.
And Hubbard just took his job.
I don't think he cares because he got paid the contract.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I kind of.
He's got the money instead of the touches.
He got a contract.
You get to ruin your body for it.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have to get beat up. He's totally cool.
Bingo.
It's totally cool. It was close to $20 million guaranteed, wasn't it?
I think it was like 16, or maybe like 12.
He definitely got a solid contract for it.
Either way, for the way they're paying running backs right now, that's good. Yeah, the way they're paying running backs right now, it's worth it.
Just to put things in perspective here for our listeners, Adam Thielen disappointed last week. Would you rather start him over over T. Higgins and the Jaguars receivers, or how would you guys rank that?
I would. It's close. It is close, but I would still start Thielen because, I used a stat last night on Joe's show, but Thielen last time he played the Saints in week 2, which I know week 2. Long time ago, but he was wide receiver 18. And that was half PPR. So
you got to hope for the targets from him. He can see 10 plus while the other ones.
He's still getting 7 a game. The past.
Exactly. Week. The other ones are lucky to reach 7 targets.
Mingo's gotten out. Mingo has actually out targeted. Jonathan Mingo has out-targeted Adam Thielen the past 3 games. I think it was by 2, which is weird that they're getting him more involved. But it does, for you out there who's really, really fucking desperate, maybe in deep leagues, put Mingo in a lineup. If he's getting 7 targets, it's just as many as Thielen. And we're in
12-plus team leagues, I give him a shot probably.
Yep. Then looking at the Saints side of things, Derek Carr cleared concussion protocol, the shoulder injury, the hip injury, whatever else he got banged up. So he's going to be
He basically got in a car accident.
He's going to be starting over Jameis Winston, unfortunately, for our fantasy teams,
Boo.
guys. Yeah. I'm glad he's healthy, and I'm glad he's feeling better. But, man, Derek Carr hasn't helped our fantasy teams this year. Let's just be straight up honest about that.
I think I saw a petition online where somebody was trying to collect the guaranteed money to get him cut. It was so silly.
Man. One of my big offseason takes too was Olave was going to smash with Derek Carr because
he's injured, man. He can't throw deep. All he can do is check down.
I know. But just remember all the deep targets Derek Carr would throw in Vegas. It's just not the case here, like you said, with him banged up. But Mike, outside of Kamara, outside of Olave, who are you starting in this offense? Is there anybody?
I know both of you want to hear this, and I definitely know Joe wants to hear this, but it's fucking Taysom Hill if he plays. He didn't practice all week, foot and left hand, so he's kind of pulling a Derek Carr over here, getting multiple injuries. But the weird thing is usually when a player doesn't practice all week, you're ruled out after missing the Friday practice, but the Saints haven't ruled him out yet. So it's very odd. They're giving him a shot to play for, some reason, even though he hasn't practiced all week. But yeah, if he's in, you're firing up Taysom Hill. He's a top 10 tight end, unfortunately. Yes, and I did say unfortunately. See, the thing is like, I know rookie A.T. Perry, he was getting a lot of hype here, especially with the Olave injury, Michael Thomas going on IR, Rashid Shaheed a little banged up, but I mean, he only saw 3 targets last week, and that's just not trustworthy. So, like, realistically, outside of Kamara and Olave, you can only start Taysom Hill in this offense.
Derek Carr, Bryce Young in Superflex leagues.
I'm going to play Bryce Young because their defense is so bad, he's got to throw so much. The Saints defense ain't that bad.
Ike, how about you? Pull yourself off mute.
Don't give him a heads up. He's got to put $1 in the jar then.
I would go Derek Carr because he has proven at least more than Bryce Young.
He just gave me the willies.
Where do you have Taysom Hill in your QB ranks?
I like that, Jay.
Higher than Derek Carr.
That's fair.
Next game we got here that looks like is just going to end up being a shit show, and that's the Houston Texans taking on the New York Jets. And it's going to be a shit show because of the weather. Seems like it's going to be pretty brutal there. Rain, winds, just bad stuff here. So
stay tuned for just weather updates on that one.
Yeah. Ike.
Matt Cooper on Twitter.
Who do you like in this backfield? Dameon Pierce produced more last week. Devin Singletary outsnapped him.
Wonder who said that would happen. Oh, yeah, me on the Sunday show when you said Devin Singletary, Dylan.
I guess you're half right.
I'll take that.
He did outproduce him. He just didn't play more. But Mike, Ike, go ahead. Who would you rather have this week?
Sorry,
Pierce. He gets the most significant touches. He had 4 touches in the red zone compared to Singletary's 1. Inside the goal line, he had 3 carries to Singletary's 0. So, at least for last week, it's Dameon Pierce. They seem to want to get him the ball, even though he's been absolutely brutal. He's still under 3 yards per carry, even though he scored the touchdown, whatever. But still, he gets the high-value touches, so you got to go with him over Singletary.
I got to ask you, what's the difference between red zone carries and goal line carries?
Red zone is inside 20. Goal line is inside 5.
Okay, thank you.
I just don't think he gets all the high value touches because Devin Singletary's playing on the passing down still. That's why he.
But still, he's not getting.
But that makes him game script dependent though.
Touches.
He's just playing on passing downs. Like, and do you think they're going to get down to the Jets led by Zach Wilson?
I mean, even last week, Singletary, even with the receiving prowess, he was still out-touched by 6 touches to Singletary. Singletary will get the most important touches near the goal line.
If the Texans,
I don't think Singletary is going to make it up with his catches, to be honest.
Yeah, if the Texans were playing the Dolphins, fuck yeah, you fire up Devin Singletary over Dameon Pierce. They're playing the Jets, no, you play Dameon Pierce. They're going to be in a slog of a match back and forth. Maybe even Houston's up most of the time. So he is game script dependent at this point.
All right. With Tank Dell being out for the season with a fractured tibia, one of them.
Fibula, I think.
Who takes the step up? Obviously, Nico Collins is absolutely locked into your lineups every week. Probably even with the weather concerns here. Probably a wide receiver 1, Ike, right? If the weather wasn't so bad.
Borderline. If the weather wasn't bad, he's obviously wide receiver 1.
Yeah. And then you got, what do you think about Noah Brown, Robert Woods here, Ike?
Robert Woods probably shouldn't be started in any format, to be honest. He has
I don't want anything to do with it.
That's your boy,
Noah Brown has some intrigue, when he filled in for Nico and Woods when they were injured those 2 weeks, week 9 and 10, he had 2 wide receiver 1 finishes. So I'm assuming he's going to take the starting role with Nico Collins. He's a risky flex at best, but obviously you're starting Nico, you're starting Dalton Schultz. I think if he's healthy, you should be starting him at least because tight ends are brutal too. So other than that, Noah Brown you can give a shot to, but depends on what you're looking like.
Yeah, legitimately, Noah Brown could get you 0. He could get you 40.
Dude, his 2 weeks he was a wide receiver 1. It was 25 plus points. So I mean, he has skill, but it just depends on how much workload he's gonna get. Yeah, usage.
Can I play a quick little game with you that we do on Joe's show? Start 2, sit 1 between 3 receivers. Your options are Chris Godwin, Drake London, and Noah Brown.
Noah Brown and Drake London.
You're starting Noah Brown and Drake London, sitting Chris Godwin out of those 2. How about you, Dylan?
Yes. Drake London, Chris Godwin.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go Noah Brown, Drake London on that one. But that's just to the point where, like, obviously Chris Godwin and Drake London are, but also Noah Brown with his Tank Dell injury.
Noah Brown has proved more to me this year than Chris Godwin. And in 2 games for Noah Brown, he's proved more to me than Chris Godwin has all year. So,
but just consider that if you're considering Drake London, starting Drake London or Chris Godwin, you're in the right to be starting Noah Brown, possibly over those 2.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Looking at the Jets side of things, Mike, we're pretty locked in on Garrett Wilson starting him at least a wide receiver 3. Obviously, he's getting a ton of targets for the most part. They went back to Zach Wilson, which is probably a little better than Tim Boyle. Not sure it's better than Trevor Siemian.
And it sure ain't better than Joe Flacco.
It's definitely not better than Joe Flacco. Hell, Zach Wilson didn't even want it. He wanted to be Alex Moran and just chill as the backup.
I get it.
Yeah, I get it too. He doesn't. I don't want to play anymore either. But looking at the backfield, Mike, the Jets are trying to work in Dalvin Cook a little bit more, but then the idiot fumbled last week, so that might not work out. Might not happen.
Did he not get the memo? He's Dalvin Cook, not James Cook.
Whoa, James Cook catching strays.
He likes to fumble. I'm just saying.
Brees Hall considered a top 24 guy this week, Mike.
Yes, but let me be clear. Yeah, let me be clear. Strictly because of targets, not the rushing work whatsoever. All right. I know Ike was big on Brees Hall before the season, and I'll be honest, this is probably attributed to the terrible O-line that they have right now.
Terrible
quarterback play.
With
12
the
people in the box.
To the O-line, but like he hasn't seen 20 plus rushing attempts since week 5, and that's the only game all year he's exceeded 20 plus rushing attempts. And you want to take it down a little bit more? He hasn't seen 15 plus rushing attempts since week 9.
Was week 5 the last time they won? Was week 5 the last time they won?
Oh, fuck. I'd have to look it up.
Talk about his yards per carry where he's averaging 10 carries for 15 yards every week.
I don't want to talk about that. But that's part of the reason why. It's the O-line obviously not blocking. And Brees Hall can't get those explosive plays. He kind of reminds me of Saquon Barkley the year after he had the number 1 season where he was just trying to break a big play every time and just wouldn't take the yards in front of him. Yep. But did you know he's 3rd in running back targets behind only Kamara and Christian McCaffrey on the year? 57 in 12 games.
He'll see 5 plus a game.
Exactly. 57 in 12 games. He's pretty much getting 5 targets a game. That alone just makes him a rock solid RB2 in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm here with that as well. It's not pretty. Don't watch the game, but by the end of it, he might have you 12 PPR points. That would be ideal at this point, especially with weather.
For a running back, 12 PPR points. That's what we're saying right now. It's fine.
RB2, man. That's all you need.
When for a wide receiver, if you put up 20, you're like wide receiver 15.
It's where we are in fantasy football, man.
Yep. And Angelo, yeah, you're definitely starting the Texans D. I'll talk about Brandon Cooks a little later for you if that changes your mind over Nico.
Brandon Cooks over Nico. Interesting. Okay.
I'll try and change your mind a little later.
The matchup is super good for Brandon Cooks, but yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. But we're jumping into the afternoon games now. We got the Minnesota Vikings, who are going to be led by Joshua Dobbs this week, taking on the Las Vegas
with
Raiders.
Justin Jefferson. Woo!
He's back. He's back in the saddle again. Ike, with JJ back, where do you have Jordan Addison in your?
I'll make this easy. He's nothing more than a boom bust wide receiver 3. That was with Kirk Cousins. This is with now Joshua Dobbs, who likes to run more than Kirk Cousins ever will have imagined. Plus, you get Justin Jefferson back, who commands an insane amount of targets. I can see Addison being a very disappointing option this week.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid him in all possible situations.
I'm totally fine with him. If he drops 20 on my bench, I'm totally fine with it because I know I didn't expect that because just with everything with Justin Jefferson coming back, with him just not really it just
he's more of a runner than a thrower.
Not a lot of working for Addison right now.
And the Vikings, let's be honest, the Vikings aren't going to need to chuck the ball all over the yard to win this game. Grind it out on the ground, play action, let Dobbs do stuff with his legs, kind of like Mike just alluded to, and win the game that way. So, like, if they're going to be running it a lot, who do you have higher in your rankings, Alexander Madison or Ty Chandler this week?
Madison still. He plays more, obviously. He gets more touches and will get the higher value touches. Tyson Chandler is more, or whatever, I don't know his first name.
And it's not Tyson Chandler from the Bulls, from the Mavericks. Where else did he play? The Suns.
We'll call him that now.
It's just Ty. Don't call me.
I'll call him Tyson.
Ty.
Tyson's probably his real name, so he gets the full real name this time, full government name. He does. Okay. He's literally just the spellback. He'll change the pace for few plays and then get him out there for Madison.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that he's the change of pace guy because he looks so much more explosive and faster than Alexander Madison.
That's fine if he looks more explosive. Vikings are like, hey, fuck that. We don't care. We'll give Madison more carries, more snaps, more everything anyways.
Did you take a look at how Dylan spelled Madison in the show sheet?
Yeah, that was bad.
With 2 Ds.
It looks like he just copied and pasted Jordan Addison's last name and put a capital M in front of it.
You know,
just put an M in front of it. It'll be okay.
Shit happens when you party naked, man. Looking at the Raiders side of things, Mike, signs of life from Jacoby Myers in their last game with a top 14 finish. Are you back in this week with Aiden O'Connell throwing him the football?
Here's your contingency on this one. If he can tie Devontae Adams in total targets, they each got 7 last week, and red zone targets, both 1 apiece. Myers is the one that scored, though. Then, yeah, of course, I think he can have another week like that. But do you really think Jacoby Myers is? Do you really think Jacoby Myers is going to get the same amount of targets and red zone targets as Devontae Adams moving forward? And no. All right, and let's. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Jacoby Myers or Jordan Addison?
I'd probably still go Jacoby Myers. All right, but here's the thing.
Better matchup, yeah, I go Jacoby.
Just to expound a little bit more on it, like that was his first 7-target game since week 7, and that was when he saw 13 targets and Adams saw 12. So even then, when he gets one of these games, he's either out targeting Adams or he's getting targeted just as many times as him. So it's kind of game script dependent in a way here with Jacoby Myers. And believe it or not, Vikings have been surprisingly better against the run this year. 11th toughest matchup for running backs. So, it might be a little tough for Josh Jacobs this week. You know, he obviously has a chance to fall into the end zone, probably the best chance out of anybody on the Raiders.
Yeah.
But you know, just teams are deciding to throw more on the Vikings, and I think it's because Brian Flores' blitz packages. Yep. It's really stunting the running game here, so they're just deciding to throw a lot more because they're the 10th best matchup for wide receivers. So maybe we see another week where Jacoby Myers is, in store for top 36 finish, but I bet my house on it.
Yeah. No, just one rebuttal here. I'm a little worried because you alluded to Brian Flores' blitz happy scheme. He also disguises his blitzes very well, and he's going against a rookie quarterback where he could just possibly make life hell on Aiden O'Connell, which could cause bad things for the pass catchers, obviously. That's just my thoughts there. But, I have no problem if you have to start Jacoby Myers.
Jamie.
In
Alexander
Yeah,
Battison.
pulled it up. Yeah, like that.
I didn't
like-
see you pull it up. That's funny.
Looking at the next game here, we got the Seattle Seahawks taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Ike, was DK a 1 week wonder, or can we expect him to now continue some success? Not like what we saw last week, obviously, but be a solid lock it in wide receiver 2 for the rest of the way and this week.
Basically, never expect what happened last week to ever happen again for DK Metcalf. That was astonishing to see him do that against the Cowboy defense. But last time he played the 49ers, Travis Ward locked him down. So that's something to think about. I still think he's a borderline wide receiver 2 based off his last 4 games. He's averaging 9.5 targets. Very good for him. 5.3 catches. Obviously, he's needs to work on his catching ability a little bit, but 89.5 points, and then he's averaging a touchdown per game, 19.75 points per game, fantasy points. So in his last 4 games, he's getting the targets, he's getting what he needs to be done for wide receiver 2 status, but still it's risky going against Travis Ward, who locked him down. The only time in these last 4 weeks, he only had 6 fantasy points against him.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. What about the other wide receivers here, man? Tyler Lockett or JSN this week?
Tyler Lockett still. JSN only has 1 top 36 finishes in the last 4 games with what DK has been doing, and Lockett has 2 during that time. One of them was a wide receiver 1 finish, so he's still the number 2 option, although it's intriguing to see JSN get 11 targets against the Cowboys. But he's not doing anything with those targets. He's not getting the red zone targets or anything like that. That goes to DK or Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet or whatever. But still, I'd still go Lockett over him.
JSN or Jordan Addison or Jacoby Myers?
Fuck.
Make it easier for you. Start 2, sit 1.
Jacoby.
You'd sit Jacoby there?
No, I'd probably play Jacoby just because he has a better resume all year. He actually seems like to be 1 or 2 target on that team. Meanwhile, JSN can be 2 or 3 at best.
Interesting. Okay. Looking at the San Francisco side of things, and they're coming off just a fire win over the Eagles last week. And Brock Purdy catapulting himself into the MVP race, the front runner in Vegas right now, which is, don't really get me started on that. I think it's blasphemy. I like Brock Purdy.
Vegas is trying to make money.
And I talked to you guys earlier this year that I thought Purdy was good, but for him to be the most valuable player in the league, come on. Let's be real here.
Is there a trophy for most valuable game manager?
Who you taking over him though right now?
You're gonna hate me, but it's Dak Prescott if he wins.
It is Dak Prescott. I mean, if he can.
Okay, you can say that, but he's putting up numbers against who?
I'm also taking his teammate Christian McCaffrey over him. I'm also taking Tyreek Hill as an MVP option over him.
Look who Jalen Hurts played last year.
Tyreek Hill.
Oh yeah. Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill should be the MVP. That's my opinion.
If he breaks 2,000, he should.
Why would you not?
Well, because QB play is down this year. That's the only reason why. But if you had a QB that was, head and shoulders above the other, then Tyreek Hill has no chance.
And when you're debating between Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott right now, and Tyreek Hill is putting up these kind of numbers, he should probably be front runner.
Or everyone's saying Jalen Hurts is the best bet. Jalen Hurts hasn't even sniffed what he did last season, and you're going to make him MVP?
Ike's argument was like, who has Dak Prescott played this year? Who did Jalen Hurts play last year? They had one of the easiest strengths of schedule, and he still won the MVP. So, it's very possible Prescott could win it if, he can finish out strong.
Dude, he's got 3 games. 3 or 4 games coming up to prove it. If he plays good against Eagles, Bills, Lions, and I don't know who the other one is, he's got it locked in the bag.
Yeah. Yeah, that other one's against Miami, who both of those teams can't seem to beat good teams. So something's one of those things is gonna break there.
That's why the MVP race right now is just fucked.
Tyler says Hurts too, and I get it. It's because of the rushing touchdowns, but man, you look at his interception rate compared to last year when he did win MVP, and that's what's really hurting his case.
So much better.
He's 10-2, but half his total touchdowns are from running touchdowns on a tush play.
In a position
basically going to be illegal next year. So
in a position where we're thriving passing the ball right now.
If you give it to Jalen Hurts, I'll be pissed off. I think Brock Purdy deserves it way more than Jalen Hurts right now.
We went on.
I like Angelo's though. Bijan for MVP for not punching Arthur Smith in the face.
Sure, I can give him that too.
This was a great conversation, and we need to have this conversation at a different day because we need to hop back into this game. But
we can't though. We do have a couple questions. I'm sorry.
Well, here, let me get to this question here, Mike, and then I was saving that question for when we get to the Dolphins game.
All right. Well, let them know that then.
Oh, it's coming up here quick-ish.
Don't just leave him in the dark.
Mike, we were just talking about Brock. Is he a good option at QB this week? We trust in him, or would you rather have like Geno here against the 49ers?
If my two options are him and Geno, it's Brock. But let me get this straight. Brock is one of 4 QBs with 8+ passing touchdowns in the past 3 games. That includes Dak Prescott, who leads with 9. Jordan Love, yeah, buddy, got to get his name in there. And Matthew Stafford, who, basically all have 8 with Purdy. Difference between those guys, though, is Purdy is at 82 passing attempts in those 3 games, where all of those other ones are at 100+. So, like, in that 3-game stretch, he's throwing a touchdown on 9.7% of his passes, which is more than double the league average throughout the year. So he's being very, very, very efficient right now. So, like, he's going to take a dip in that efficiency at some point. It's just when. But if my two options are Geno and Brock, it's Brock because he's averaging more points per game the past 3, and it's not even close.
Yeah, he's just so much safer, too, because of all the weapons he has.
I don't know if you consider him safe, dude. He's only throwing it 27 times a game. How's that safe?
Because I was just explaining it to you. Because of the weapons he has Debo who can catch the screen pass and take it 40 yards for a touchdown. Same with Christian McCaffrey. He's got Brandon Ayuk, who's emerged as an alpha wide receiver.
But what if they run across the defense that just plays, hey, what, you take all that underneath stuff. We're going to stop the big gains, and like it's not as efficient of a game. Or let's say CMC takes over. Like in this matchup.
I don't think that's this week against Seattle, Mike.
I gotta ask.
Well, because Seattle's secondary is much better than their run defense.
I agree.
What is the reason, really, that you guys don't have Purdy as the MVP favorite? Other than Dak having more touchdowns, obviously passing by like 3, I think it is. But is it because he's got the weapons, or what is it that's stopping from Purdy being MVP?
Because you could put Jimmy Garoppolo in that offense and look good, man. I like Brock.
Yeah,
Purdy.
but not like
that. That doesn't help.
Not like this, though, man. He is doing. He has. I wish I
we'll
bring up
stats
stats
Jimmy
right now,
Garoppolo
but he's got some
Super Bowl.
stats right now, dude. He's leading in yards per attempt. He's leading in quite a bunch of stuff where Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't even breathe in that same category.
But it's also a smaller sample size than all the other quarterbacks too, because all the other quarterbacks are throwing a lot more than him. Like, he's just being
but he's outperforming him. And if you tell me that he is gaining from what Debo and Brandon Ayuk are doing, he has less of again, this was on a stat from Undisputed, and first things first, take it with what you want. But he has less yards after catch than Mahomes had when in his MVP year, both times, more than Tom Brady's had in his MVP careers. I mean, yards after catch happens. So if you're going to take that away from Purdy, you can't, because he's getting the ball to these guys in an efficient way. So I don't know. I think it should be Purdy.
I mean, if everybody can stay healthy, yeah. That's the thing. Go ahead, Dylan.
I want to keep
these next 4 games are huge for Dak. That's all I got to say.
The thing is, as soon as you took Trent Williams and Debo Samuel out of that offense, what was Purdy? Nothing.
That's what I'm.
Okay, take away Tyron Smith from the Cowboys offense or Zach Martin. What's he like? Or take away CD Lamb from him. What's that like? Come on.
Brock Purdy's worse than Dak in that situation, I think.
Is he?
I mean,
We don't know.
CD
CD Lamb has played every game for the past 2 years, so we don't
know.
know.
Yeah, don't be putting any bad juju on CD Lamb right now, you assholes. What's going on here? Yeah, it's I don't know.
And Tyler just said he lost several games in a row. Every quarterback has lost several games in a row. Dak lost to Arizona and Philly. Jalen Hurts just got railroaded by San Fran, got outplayed by Brock Purdy. So how come I don't know.
Like I said, it's weird for me being on the opposite side of it because I think Brock is good. I do. But if you take
I think he's the best 49er quarterback since they've had in 20 years. He's better than Kaepernick. He's better than Jimmy. He's better than all those idiots.
How can you say he's better than Kaepernick or Jimmy when Kaepernick and Jimmy led them to a Super Bowl and Brock hasn't yet? Now, granted, injury stopped him, but we have still yet to see him lead them to a Super Bowl like Kaepernick and
So
Jimmy
you're
did.
telling me if Brock Purdy didn't destroy his elbow in that game, he wouldn't have beat the Eagles? Because I fully believe he would have.
We don't know, and maybe we get a chance.
They have a better defense. They have a better offensive line, maybe debatable.
That's why I said health is a key here because that's what's been detrimental to the Niners all, for the past 5 seasons. And that's why it's like, man, you take away an injured player, Brock Purdy's not as good. I mean, you take away Chase Young, who they traded for before the trade deadline. Brock Purdy wasn't good. Like, the defense is helping Purdy by getting him good field position so he doesn't have to throw the ball a lot. And then the running game is helping in the passing game because it gives them first read looks.
Who else has benefited from that as one MVP? I can literally name almost every quarterback. Tom Brady benefited from a great defense and a great running game.
It's the same case. You could make the case for Tua that way as well.
Tyler, Mike, shut your mouth. Eagles were the best team in the NFC going into that championship game last year.
No, they weren't. Come on.
Since we're talking hypotheticals, I didn't want to bring this up, but can I ask, how many more losses do the 49ers have if Sam Darnold is the quarterback instead of Brock Purdy? That's kind of another point for my MVP discussion there. Like, does the offense look that much worse if Sam Darnold's the
I don't think he makes
Brock
that
Purdy?
throw to Brandon Ayuk a couple weeks ago against whoever it was. I don't think Sam Darnold makes that play.
Okay.
So at least that's one game right there.
All right.
I'd say probably 2 to 3 more losses.
More losses? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's way more than I thought. So you think they'd be a 5 or 6 loss team with Sam Darnold at quarterback? Then?
Yeah, which is still a playoff team.
No, I think Brock Purdy.
That would be 500, Mike.
But
you said they would be 500. They'd have 2 or
just 2 or 3 total more losses on the year.
They've lost 3. They've lost 3 games. They've lost 3. Oh, okay, the rest.
Yeah, but if they finish with 6 losses on the year, they'd be a playoff team. That's my point.
I hear you. Okay. All right, let's finally move on. We got a good game to talk about, though. That was nice.
My fault this time.
We got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Ike, Allen Cook, Diggs locked in. Do you like anyone else in this matchup?
I like Gabe Davis. He likes to score against the Chiefs. We know this. He scored 4 whatever it was in the playoff game, and even in a regular season game, he still scored a touchdown. You gotta try it. I mean, why not? What other options do you have? I would play Gabe Davis over, say, Jordan Addison and players like that for sure.
Yeah. What about and then Angelo kind of pointed to this too, Shakir, and then I kind of alluded that to you at the show sheet about the slot as well as a very solid matchup against the slot. I think Kansas City gives up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing slot receivers as well.
In 10-team leagues, I would suggest not starting him because you should have better options. But in 12 plus, he's worth a shot. I mean, he's only averaging 4.2 targets per game since getting the starter reps or whatever it is. I know Chiefs allow a lot of points to the slot, but it's just not their game plan to give Shakir the ball a lot. And maybe 5 to 6 times a game, if he breaks a big play, that will be what he does. But for the most part, it goes to Stephon Diggs and Don Kincaid and Gabe Davis he saw 10 targets last week. So
yep. And Jaden Reed also had a smash spot in the slot against them last week and did absolutely nothing. Who was another guy that I was high on last week as well that I whiffed on, along with another slot receiver, Josh Dobbs. Thanks, guys. So, but looking at the Chiefs side of things, Mike, and man, this offense isn't the offense that we've seen in the past. Their defense is the strength of their team. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes don't seem to necessarily be on the exact same page like before. Maybe Kelsey's taking a dip and the age has finally caught up with him.
Don't you dare say that, but go on.
You're still starting these two guys, man. But who else are we going? Kind of the same question I gave Ike. Is there anyone else in this offense you want?
Absolutely is. I know Ike's been waiting a long time to say this, so I'm glad I got the question this week. But it's Rashee Rice. Before the bye week in week 10, weeks 1 through 9, Rice caught a total of 33 receptions on 41 targets. After the bye week, so in 3 weeks, he's caught more than half of that, 20 receptions on more than half of the targets in his total, of 9 weeks with 24. So believe it or not, he's actually out targeting Travis Kelce the past 3 games, 24 to 21.
Yes, dude.
And the nice thing is obviously, Travis Kelce's the red zone threat here, but the next leading guy is Rashee Rice on the year. He is, as far as wide receivers go, top wide receiver with 14 red zone targets on the year, and the next highest is Sky Moore with 6. So it's Rashee Rice season, baby, for the playoffs.
Let's go. Yep. I've been on that for a while. I'm all about Rashee Rice. Ike is. This is a pro Rashee Rice show. So, what do we got here? Next game, we got the Denver Broncos taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Ike, with all the QB injuries, has Russ creeped his way into the top 12 of your rankings?
I'd play Goff over him instead this week, which is weird because Goff on the road is brutal. But as for Russ, this is going to be weird, but he's only had 1 200-yard plus game in the last 8 games.
It's because he really doesn't do anything till the fourth quarter.
Yeah, no,
I'm
under
with you.
200 yards in the last 8 games once is just mind-boggling to me. He's only had 3 quarterback one finishes during this time, 0 games above 20 points. So you got hope for a low quarterback week to get to be in the top 12. Even with all the injuries, he is literally nothing more than a solid super flex option.
I want to say his touchdown rate is something silly.
It is pretty high.
Yeah.
LaPlante posted it a couple weeks ago. He might have the highest or top.
He was at the time.
3, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, he was at the time.
And then you having Russ down in your rankings, does that have anything to do with Javonte Williams having a smash spot here against the Chargers defense? Rush defense? Javonte close to RB1 territory for you?
No. He is mid to low end RB1 or RB2. I mean, most of the year, other than those 2 games where he saw 20 plus carries, he's hovering around 10 to 15 touches. So,
wow,
it's just something it's just something you're not excited about, but he is obviously worth starter contention because the running backs are literally so brutal right now.
You're 100% starting Javonte Williams against the Chargers this week, in my opinion. Mike, go ahead with what you're going to say.
I was just going to say Wilson did drop off. He was at like a 9+ touchdown percentage on his throws, and now he's down to 6%.
Yeah, it's dropped the last few games. So
that's called regression to the mean, guys, and that's why I'm afraid of Brock Purdy.
Like
I'd be more afraid of DK.
We talked a lot of wide receivers on this show, borderline guys. Are you putting Jerry Jeudy over any of them, or is he behind the Drake Londons, the Jordan Addisons, the Noah Browns?
I'd play Noah Brown over Jerry Jeudy. Dude has maybe seen 6+ targets in like a couple games, a handful of games, if that. Cortland Sutton is the dude in this offense, obviously. And if they're not throwing to Cortland Sutton, they're running the ball with Samaje, Javonte, Jaleel. I mean, like I said, only one 200-yard plus game in the last 8 games. That's not much yards to be had for the receivers they got.
Yep.
4 games of 6+ targets for Jerry Jeudy.
That's not good. 6+ targets. I was literally just saying Khalil Shakur should not be started because that's the most he's seen in a game. So Jerry Jeudy is in that same realm right now.
Mike, looking at the Chargers side of things, we've been ripping on Quentin Johnson in the last few weeks because he stinks. But he's seeing the volume now. Does the seven targets intrigue you from him?
It does a little bit. That was tied for 23rd for wide receivers with 6 other ones last week. But the Broncos have been much better actually at defending the pass than the run this year. 6th toughest matchup for wide receivers. Now last week, Surtain went out a little bit. And, in my opinion, that's what let Nico Collins, feast. Otherwise, I don't think he would have gotten 190 yards. Probably just had a, still respectable 100
like a
game.
50.
But so the pass is definitely tougher for the Broncos defense at defending. Although this week I do like Johnson as a flex play, but nothing more. And I mean, with news of Josh Palmer coming back off IR here, possibly next week, not this week, he's not going to be activated. That's the only reason Johnson's really in flex contention. But once Palmer comes back, he becomes irrelevant again.
Yeah, totally fair enough. And I know we're running late, but I do want to touch on this, man. Jordan Schultz made a great comment on the Sunday show a couple weeks ago talking about how Austin Eckler broke a log run, but he only topped out at 13 miles an hour. Now we have Brandon Staley.
I remember that play.
Now we have
he was trudging, man.
Now we have Brandon Staley. Now we have Brandon Staley coming out and saying that it's going to be a competition for carries. Are we shitting our pants about Austin Eckler the rest of the season? Is Josh Kelly eking into flex territory?
I'm more worried about Austin Eckler than I am worried about starting Josh Kelly. I'll put it that way.
Would you rather start Javonte Williams on the opposite side, or would you rather still go Austin Eckler?
Eckler.
That's
answered.
So go ahead.
I answered that super quick, but at least I assume he gets the targets or the touches more. But I mean, with Kellen Moore, he's not seeing the 6 to 8 targets anymore that he used to last year. So that is intriguing, but I would still go Austin Eckler.
Think I actually lean Javonte Williams there in that if I had the two. I'm panicking on Austin Eckler.
I go really Javonte Williams as well.
And I'm not sure many of his owners are in the playoffs, so maybe they don't have to worry about this or the playoff scenario. But you do have him on a roster, Ike, and you're battling for the playoffs? Okay.
Right. One of my dynasty leagues.
Eckler does have more targets than Javonte Williams, but I looked at it on the year, and Eckler only has 126 attempts to 153 for Javonte. And it's only a 10-target difference between Javonte.
Eckler missed 3 weeks or whatever though.
But yeah, he's definitely been a kind of a bust this year. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Jamie, man, I appreciate you saying things like that. We appreciate you. Really.
Thank you for sticking around. We'd hope you stick around for the full 3 hours.
We talk about the MVP conversation in the last 3 hours.
Yeah, you ain't kidding there. But yeah, Angelo, I don't have much Austin Eckler anymore either. And I also agree.
Yeah, I only got
Josh Kelly's very
one
good.
or 2 shares of him now.
And then Jamie said, "Start Tupac Shakur, Khalil Shakur."
I know Ike would be starting there.
I would start Tupac over Khalil any day of the week.
No doubt. Looking into Sunday Night Football, guys.
I don't care if he's dead.
We got 3 matchups left. Sunday Night Football, we got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Just saw this game a few weeks ago. Like looking at the Eagles side of things, obviously Jalen Hurts still a fantasy cheat code. You're starting him. DeAndre Swift, we could have talked about him a little bit. He's been
He got
struggling a
absolutely
bit as of
throttled.
late. Yeah, and he's a little banged up from that, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all. But
He got hit
Devonta
by a
Smith
train.
really coming along recently, and in my opinion, a lot of it has to do with Dallas Goedert being out. He's questionable to return this week. I'm not sure if he's been announced.
He is playing.
Still questionable.
It's trending towards him playing.
Okay. Does that mean Devonta Smith goes back to what we were getting at the beginning of the season, which was crap?
Not
Or
even
do you-
remotely worried about Devonta Smith. Against the Cowboys, he has scored 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games. All of them are with Goddard playing as well. So clearly, for some reason, I don't know the matchups or whatever, but Devonta Smith loves to destroy the Cowboys. He's averaging 20 fantasy points per game in his last 3 meetings. Must start wide receiver 2 for me, for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Right on. But let's touch on Swift a little bit, man. Like I said, it hasn't been good. He took a nasty hit last week that's banged him up. Like Javonte Williams, Austin Eckler, or DeAndre Swift this week. Where would you go there?
I'd put Swift after both of them, I think. Swift's carries and touches have been dwindling down a little bit. But I've heard on multiple TV shows, if the Eagles want to get back to their winning ways, they need to get the ball to DeAndre Swift. When he was getting 15-plus touches, they were actually performing pretty well. Again, he's looked pretty soft lately, but still, you got to get him the touches.
And
I'd
boys
play
and girls,
Yeah.
TV's never wrong.
TV is never wrong. Remember that.
To Ike's point a little bit, though, the Eagles were at their best when they were physical, punch you in
It
the mouth
was, man.
offense.
When they were giving him a lot of touches, man, he looked good. The offense looked good. Jalen Hurts didn't have to do as much, so
yeah,
something.
No, I hear you. I'm a little worried about Swift this week, but I mean, if you have him the way running backs are, you're probably still throwing him in your lineups.
That comment was funny.
Which one?
Swift
I
one.
see it for Jamie. Yeah, I do like that one too.
I like that one.
Mike, looking at the Dallas side of things, Dak kills the Eagles. We're starting him this week. Tony Pollard rolling him out. CeeDee Lamb stud like he is every week. But Brandon Cooks scored a lot of fantasy points lately. But I know you're going to tell the guys why they should be pumping their brakes a little bit. What are your thoughts on Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, just a little bit here. I know you put in the question, is he locked in? And I wouldn't exactly call him a lock just yet. He's only seen 13 targets the past 3 games. That's only 11.6 percent target share, guys. I mean, you don't start that. He's 62nd on the year for wide receivers in targets, with 52. All right, just for some context there, if 62 wasn't bad enough, in 5 games, Justin Jefferson has more targets than Brandon Cooks, 53. Jerry Jeudy has more targets than
shouldn't be your home.
Brandon Cooks. Robert Woods, Rashid Shaheed, KJ Osborne, Demario Douglas, and worst of all, Darius Slayton has more targets. Kelsey ain't in there, right?
What the fuck, guys?
Here's the thing.
I'd really like to finish the rap lyric there, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it PG-13.
Despite all the negativity I've, just spewed out about Brandon Cooks, he has a touchdown in 3 of his last 4 games. And in those 3 of those games, he's been a top 24 wide receiver. So I think it's pretty safe to say he scores a touchdown. He's a wide receiver 3 easily. But if he doesn't, man, he's losing you that week because he's only getting about 4 targets. So he's touchdown dependent at this point. And right now, I'd say that he's probably going to score a touchdown this week.
Yeah.
Him or Addison, Bryce, Godwin, all those guys. Who would you rather have?
Nice, dude. I would go Brandon Cooks. I'm with Angela.
Oh, yeah.
I love the matchup. against the Eagles.
I do. It's just
Dak's been on
volume
fire.
sucks.
You got to roll with that.
Yeah, you'd say kind of he's been MVP caliber, right, Ike?
No. I mean, MVP caliber, sure, but I would go Brock Purdy over him, or even Tyreek Hill, but whatever.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I'm starting Brandon Cooks over T. Higgins in the home league this week. So
It's just it's hard to start a guy who's 62nd in targets for
I get that. I did wish you pulled the stat on like how many targets he's seen in the past.
What's his last
games.
3 weeks?
I can do that easily.
Or last 4 weeks.
Yeah, because he's really
Probably
starting to come around. Because you probably found him on the waiver wire in week 8. And if you were lucky enough to pick him up and been plugging him in your lineup, he's been eating.
13 targets the past 3 weeks. Let's bring it up to 4.
That's not great.
23 targets because that was his 10 target performance.
Yeah, we like the 4 game. We like the 4 game better, man.
We like the 4 game, not the 3.
We like the 4 game and not 3. But yeah, 13 targets in 3 games. That's only 4 a game, guys. It's not dependable. That's the thing. But right now, he's pulling a Gus Edwards and he's scoring a touchdown more often than he's not. So that's what makes him
with that offense. I mean, might as well.
Yeah, and a juicy matchup against the Eagles. So yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. Looking into the Monday night football games, we have 2 at the exact same time. We were talking about it pre-show. Not sure why that's a thing. I don't know if it sucks, Mike, because you really only have to watch one because neither of these.
Which one? Yeah. Which one?
I don't know. Let's talk it out here once we get through these games. Let's talk it out.
I'd watch the Packer game way more.
That's actually a shock. I'd probably think I'd rather watch the Dolphins game just to see that excitement of the Dolphins.
Just to see Tyreek Hill just take 160 yards for no apparent reason.
Devon Achane, yeah, just fucking take one to the house.
I think I'm with Ike, though. I'd rather watch the Packer-Giants game because touchdown Tommy, man. Tommy DeVito, my guy, is 1 year at Illinois, man.
I gotta love the Tommy DeVito.
Yes.
Tommy DeVito.
I love it.
You think his mom drops him off at the stadium that day?
Fuck yeah.
I hope
with a full plate of spaghetti.
Chicken cutlets, making his bed. I love it. Mom, keep doing it. Keep freaking doing it.
MVP, man. Hell yeah.
This first one, we got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Miami Dolphins. Mike, could you scroll through and find Albert's question when you got a second? But let's start with the Titans. Let's start with Ike. I'm going to change the question up a little bit. For some reason, Derrick Henry...
After
he got a concussion and then was completely cleared like instantly, which was completely weird. I thought Spears was going to be more of a thing, definitely if Henry was out, but it looks like he's going to play. Spears saw like 16 carries last week and was pretty good with what we saw. We've seen him be explosive. Is this a week where we finally see him get more work? And is he going to be usable even if Henry plays, or would you rather look elsewhere?
Unfortunately, since Henry is looking like he's going to be playing, I'd be looking elsewhere. I do expect Spears to get a little bit more work, but will he get the high value touches like the touchdown or like the goal line carries? Probably not, because you're going to want to get Derrick Henry, the big guy, in there. So definitely. It's still Henry no matter what. Although if you are down bad at running back, say like Spears, or I hope you don't have to deal with this, but like Tyler Algier or something like that, or Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce is borderline, but I think I would go Spears just because they're going to want to save Henry a little bit. Just because of that head injury. He did get rocked pretty bad. I don't know how he passed concussion protocol, but still, I think Spears is a solid option.
Yeah, man, I'm with you.
Khalil Herbert or Spears?
Spears. Khalil Herbert, for some reason, just can't get in the end zone. He'll get the carries or whatever, but if it's coming down the goal line, I would assume it's going to be Justin Fields or someone like that.
The problem is, what if he just comes out and gets 12 carries again? Like
Khalil Herbert?
Beginning of the year, and he's the lead back, yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the issue I'm having here.
12 carries.
What if I won the lottery?
Sure.
True.
He can get 12 carries for 70 yards, for 100 yards for all I care. He's not going to get the touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I think I would lean Herbert slightly, but I definitely could see you going Spears and making a case for it.
I wish Henry was out, man. Tyjae Spears would be top waiver wire guy, probably someone that should be started in almost every league.
Yeah, I agree there. Just because we saw the volume last week when Henry was out. Looking at the Miami Dolphins side of things, Mike, I'll go ahead and ask you this question before we answer Albert's question. Is it wheels up for Mostert and A-Chain this week?
Yeah, you're putting both of them in your lineup here. But I'm gonna start coining this new term. Thanks to somebody at work who gave me this, I believe, or it was someone on the Sunday social show. But I've planted my flag on Devon Achane. This guy's gonna be a league winner. All right, last 3 games he's averaging more fantasy points than Mostert at 16.1 compared to 14.6 for Mostert. On the year, all right, for running backs with 50 plus carries, he's averaging the most yards per carry at 9.5. The next highest is Jaleel McLaughlin at 5.8. So pretty much 4 yards more a carry than the next highest. I'm just going to reiterate, he's a league winner. I tell you, man, he's a must play in this offense, whenever you can, essentially. So yeah, Devon Achane is just going to kill it, and I think Mostert does falter off a little bit, but I mean, with this offense, you still get an opportunity for a touchdown with Mostert, so you start him.
This offense runs through the running backs, man. Mike, we've talked about this off screen, on the podcast, everything. So it just opens up the play action game. It opens up the deep threat with Tyreek Hill. But Albert asked earlier in the show,
basically become, I wouldn't say non-existent, but a wide receiver 2 that just fallen into.
It's totally bland, man.
Yeah, it's like I guess I gotta start him because of this offense, but still,
it's DJ
that's
Moore.
exactly what it is.
It's DJ Moore the 3 years prior to this, where you're like, damn, I wasted a second, 3rd round pick on this guy, and he's just getting me 8 to 11 fantasy points right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Mike, I know you're an Achane lover. Achane
Yes.
over Jacobs this week?
Yes.
Mike?
Jacobs gets, dude.
Don't matter. You give Achane 15 plus touches, man. He's a top fucking 10 running back.
Will he get 15 plus though?
Yes.
I can guarantee Jacobs will get 15 plus. I can't say that.
You could stamp that. Yeah, but I'm with Mike. I don't think I care. I think Achane's the sexier play.
Oh yeah,
I think it's honestly
a much
the better
explosive offense, but still, man, it's hard to bench 20 plus touches. Even if you average 1 point per touch, half a point per touch, whatever, that's 10 to 20 points. That's still good.
9.5 yards to carry, man. All he needs is 15, and that's 100 yards right there.
Do you really think 9.5 yards per carry is going to keep up? I mean, that's just...
It's not. Yeah, it's probably not.
He's kept it up so far.
He's so far.
He's probably only played 4. He's played 5 games, though, Mike.
I'll look it up. I'm pretty sure it's more.
It's got to be more, but he hasn't played many games.
Where are you?
But... Ike, I'll ask this question while he's looking this up, but we kind of alluded to Waddle already. Is he still a must? Is he still a must play at this point? Probably, right? Like he's still wide
he's definitely top 36,
in your
top
rankings
24. Still? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mike, how about you?
Yeah, he's. I mean, since Achane's come back, he's averaging 8 targets a game. That's 27% target share and 13.1 fantasy points a game. So yeah,
they got no other options other than Tyreek Hill and Waddle. So. Mm-hmm. I mean, other than the running backs, but
yeah, it's just it hasn't been pretty, unfortunately, for Waddle, but he hasn't absolutely killed you, which is also been nice. But one last game, guys. Mike, we have your Green Bay Packers taking on the New York Giants. Ike, Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs set it and forget it this week with Christian Watson out with the hamstring injury, and man, does it suck for that guy that his legs just keep failing him.
If his legs didn't keep failing him, he could be a top fantasy wide receiver, but since we constantly have to deal with him being out every other week. You got Jaden Reed, who in 3 of the last 4 games has been a wide receiver 2 or better. I mean, he missed part of last week's game, which is literally the reason why he didn't finish as a wide receiver 2 or better, probably. I think he's more trustworthy than Romeo Doubs, which is weird to say because Doubs knows the offense more, I guess. He's been there longer, not by much, but still he's more boom bust. He's had 1 wide receiver 2 finish during the same stretch. With Watson out, Doubs was the more productive receiver in terms of fantasy, but they both saw 20 targets, dead even. So depends on really who you want more. I think Reed is more consistent than Doubs, though.
Yeah,
Doubs, whatever his name is.
Yeah, it's Dobbs. Good stat pull there. I pulled that same stat for the waiver wire article this week.
Love it, Jamie.
Dobbs did finish as a top 12 wide receiver at 2 out of those 3 games without Christian Watson to begin the year. So it's good things pointing to Romeo Doubs. But I like both of these guys in this matchup. And if you have them rostered, you probably should have.
Honestly, I like this whole offense right now. Jordan Love is playing phenomenal, which I hate to say because fucking Green Bay.
Bring it on. I love it.
He's not going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback or even a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but he's enough for 5 to 10 years for you guys.
How dare you say that? Did you know he has more 3-touchdown performances this year than Justin Fields does in his entire career?
We know Justin Fields is the guy, though, so.
Yeah, but you're Bears fans, so I got to rub it in.
That's our fault. That's our fault for picking him.
How many 100-yard rushing games does Jordan Love have in his career?
How about that?
I don't know, but let's compare him to a position that runs the ball like running backs, and then we'll see how good it is.
Hey, eat me. Looking at the Giants side of things, because I'm just quite frankly tired of talking about the Packers and Jordan Love. You can probably see it in my face; it's red.
And you move into this.
Saquon Barkley, man. And Mike, I struggle every single week coming up with a question for the Giants because there's nobody. Maybe Darren Waller comes back this week. I don't know. Does it matter at this point? I also don't know. But is Jalen Hyatt worth a look in deeper leagues? Should he be rostered in 12-team leagues? Like, does that question even matter at this point of the season? Like, I
mean, if you're in, 14-team leagues, that's kind of the cutoff right there. Yeah, you can roster Jalen Hyatt. 12-team, 10-team leagues, no, don't roster him. He's got 28 targets on the year. He's only seeing 3 a game the past 3. You can roster him in deeper leagues, just because obviously you're looking for a warm body, but you can't start him unless you're absolutely desperate. It's realistically, it's Barkley, and then when Waller does come back, you can throw him in the lineup just because tight ends suck.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm with you there, but yeah, that wraps it up, guys. That finishes our show.
That was a very depressing ending. Talking about ending with
it was after a very solid show. That's how we ended with the Giants, but
all because you wanted to move on from the Packers.
You're right, but plus side, Bulls win again tonight.
Wow.
The reporter who reported that Ohtani, his signing was imminent, he issues an apology for inaccurate report on Shohei's Toronto visit as well. And then for some sad news in the NBA, Kyrie Irving foot injury was seen leaving the arena in a wheelchair. Which definitely doesn't sound ideal because him and Luka have actually been playing pretty well together, and Kyrie's been being a normal fellow for once, and then unfortunately he goes down with an injury. That kind of sucks. But you got it.
Tight ends suck. I got Laporte.
Yeah, your tight ends don't suck when you got that.
That's too many. That's too many though, Angelo. I don't want them guys. Then I'm struggling.
Try rocking Kyle Pitts and freaking. I wouldn't even know who Kyle Pitts and Cole Kmet.
I've just rocked Kyle Pitts all year, man, in the home league.
Yeah, and you're just 11-2 because fuck it.
6 to 11 points, man. That's what.
Meanwhile, my team has no starting decisions that I need to make, but I'm not even in the playoffs, so it just goes to show fantasy is weird.
A fickle prick.
There is a playoff question here before we do head on out, though. D's nuts. My name is Jeff.
Right.
He's
Nice
got Jefferson
nuts.
coming back. Should I drop the Cowboys or Texans defense, who I just picked up? Texans have a great playoff schedule. Only other drop-hole players are Jalen Warren, Gus Bus, Zach Moss, and Zach Charbonnet. Let's be real. Are you? I mean,
You're
the way
probably.
Cowboy.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You're not playing Cowboys this week.
No, I was gonna say that's probably what you have to do. Unfortunately, you have to drop them because they play the Eagles this week.
I mean,
Honestly,
what's
I would
your
drop
other choice here,
Charbonnet
Mike?
because
With
Cowboys
your-
might
yeah,
have a
with
decent
your-
schedule.
well, no, but
You
he's
really,
got-
dude. Walker's
No,
coming back though.
I don't care. You think they're just
Walker's-
gonna give him the full workload? Like, no, man.
Do you
But he
think they're
has-
going to give
he has-
Charbonnet the full workload though?
He has Jalen Warren, Gus Bus, and Zach Moss though, like who's going to be starting over Charbonnet if Walker is
Warren
healthy.
and Moss are starting over Charbonnet every day of the week, no matter what.
Exactly. So
But
like, I think you can
Charbonnet's
get away
an
with dropping
elite-
Charbonnet.
Charbonnet's an elite handcuff, though. If you
I
drop
guess it
Charbonnet,
depends on who your flex option is at that point.
if he
I think
drops,
you can get away.
if he
with it.
drops Zach Charbonnet, someone is gonna sprint to the waiver wire to pick him up. Do you guys agree with that?
I mean, if you drop Cowboys defense, someone's running to the wire
Absolutely,
to get that
yeah.
defense too. So it just
With-
really depends.
Like,
Do you want your defense to score 10 to 15 points, or do you want Charbonnet with Walker around to score 8 to 12?
And I still
Remember,
think the
what's more
Cowboys defense
important?
can be all right against a good offense.
we
That's
also
the thing, like
we talked about how Dallas's schedule is tough. Like, they get the Eagles, they get the Dolphins, they get the Bills.
Touche.
That's why
That's
I'm
also
okay. That's
agreeable.
why I'm okay
But
doing that. And
You
like,
got to keep them for that last 2 weeks because it's Washington week 16
that.
and then that's basically your last week or whatever. So you should keep them on your roster for Washington no matter what. But I honestly, you could probably get rid of Gus. Is he? I mean,
No,
he'll
Charbonnet's only been relevant when Walker has been out, though. That's the thing. Warren's been relevant even with Najee Harris. Gus Bus has been relevant, as long as he scores a touchdown.
This is a big
Charbonnet
week, man. What if Keaton absolutely dominates the snaps? If you see that, you could probably drop Gus, I would assume, if the snaps are dominated by Keaton.
He's got to do it before the week starts, though, because of Jefferson coming off IR.
But what if Mitchell dominates the snaps and Gus Edwards falls into the end zone twice? So it's like that, because that
Drop
could totally
Charbonnet.
happen,
Drop
man. And
Charbonnet.
you're okay with that. It's the same thing like we were talking off stream about Jerick McKinnon. McKinnon was getting out touched by all the Chiefs running backs last year, but who was the best running back down the stretch in the Chiefs offense? Jerick McKinnon. So that's tough too if you were going to drop.
You still didn't have trust. You didn't have trust starting him.
But this conversation is much better to finish on than the Giants conversation we had before this.
Honestly, I might even just say drop the Texans defense or after this week. You play the Jaguars this week. That's fine. It's CJ Beathard, whatever his name is. After that, get rid of him.
Oh, I'm really struggling. Yeah, I'm struggling here. And I get it, the turnover allure with Deron Bland having 5 pick sixes to keep the Cowboys defense. But
I
don't
would just
wanna
keep them strictly for Washington. In that championship matchup, I want Dallas
You're
over
going to have the
many
number one
other
defense on the
defenses.
week. You're going to have the number one defense on the week. And if you drop the Cowboys, you're not getting them back.
No. If you drop Charbonnet, you're also not getting him back. If you drop Gus, you honestly might be able to get him back.
I disagree,
I
man.
don't know,
This
man,
is
if
such
Walker
a tough
stays
question, and I honestly don't think we've helped these nuts. My name is Jeff.
Let's just say you can't drop Jalen Warren and you can't drop Zach Moss. If you feel confident
You
about
can't drop
dropping
the Cowboys defense.
Gus or Charbonnet,
No,
that's
you
fine.
can. I'm still telling him to drop the Cowboys defense. That's
I
probably
like
what
the
do.
Cowboys defense
If
more
the-
than Texans, even
Mike, do you have
throughout
the
the rest of
schedule
the year.
pulled up? I want to see the
can.
Texans schedule. Let me see the Texans.
Can't get your
schedule
ankle,
rest
flip
of
a
the season.
coin.
I'm with you. That is so tough. So you don't have it pulled up, man? I could have just pulled it up faster.
Whoa.
Than
No, you couldn't have because you were talking. Their schedule is after this week is Tennessee, Cleveland,
that.
Tennessee, Colts.
Like that. Gardner
Yeah, but
Minshew,
you're
Will
not playing
Levis, Will
Colts.
Levis, and what was the other one? Will Levis
Uh,
twice, Gardner Minshew, and Joe Flacco /
Week
Dorian
18
Thompson
is Gardner
Robinson.
Minshew, though, so you're probably not starting.
Week 18 is probably not being played, so.
So
Yeah,
two
so you
Will
get Zach Wilson, Will Levis, and then Joe Flacco or DTR.
That's what I mean, man. When did they play Washington?
Take a drink.
Last week. So
Super
yeah,
Bowl week.
Philly, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit for the playoffs for Dallas. So
You don't want any of those 4 matchups, guys. I mean, you could pick Tua off once or twice. You could pick Josh Allen off once or twice, maybe he fumbles. So you can make the argument there, I guess.
I
They
guess.
could also score 100 points. You know
yeah,
what I
like
mean?
that dude just said, they play Washington after season has ended for most people. So I guess
Week
I guess you
17
can
is
drop
when they play Washington, right?
week
Is that what you
18.
said?
Week 18.
Dallas?
Yeah, week 18.
Yes, Dallas
See-
first, Washington's week 18.
Yeah,
not
sorry,
playoffs,
guys.
So
Yeah, I'm disagreeing
get
with
it.
you.
Yeah, I get it.
I think the drop is
I gotcha.
involved here.
that's
I'm
fair.
glad I'm glad we talked that out. Mike, do you still disagree?
I still say drop Charbonnet.
Okay. All right. But I think that'll do it. That'll wrap up our show. Guys, what a fun show, too. I appreciate everybody listening.
Yeah,
If you
this was a
haven't
good one.
already, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Hit that bell for notifications so you know when we go live. Head on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans, become an all access member as well for just $9.99 a month.
Appreciate you, Jamie.
Absolutely. Check out our award-winning rankings
And
when you
everybody
sign
else.
up to be an all-access member. Access to our draft cheat sheets with fantasy baseball coming up here pretty quick, sneaking up on us. Join the Discord, guys. It's honestly a blast in there, talking DFS, talking NBA, talking NFL, anything you want. We're there to answer your questions. Plus, you get access to our DFS projections and stacking tool. Mike and I will be back on Sunday for the Sunday Social Show. Ike, asking you this right now, just throwing it at you. Joe cannot make it this weekend. Do you want to be on for the rankings segment? 15-minute segment, my friend.
Sounds good.
All right. So Ike will be here with us on Sunday as well. With Jordan Schultz will be here answering start sick questions. Hopefully we have Alan Sandage back answering betting stuff. Then you have Dave Eddy and Chris Robin wrapping it up with the DFS talk. But we'll see you Sunday. But until then, for Mike and Ike, I'm Dylan, and we will talk to you then.